Students who have connected online, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for confirmation. Just hold on a second. Application ఏంటండి? HDFC. $625. Okay, so last class we have created properties, section, flow action, and flow. Just hold on a minute. Okay. Let's try to recollect what we have discussed in the last class. Last class is a practical session where we have looked at creating properties. Like properties we can create under data model category. So the yesterday requirement is like we want to create a screen. We want to create a screen to collect customer details. The screen, whatever that we have created in the yesterday's class, is to collect customer details. So customer details, collecting customer details is pretty common for every implementation, like home insurance, auto insurance, any type of insurance. So it is better to place this in framework application. Which application? Framework application. So we have chosen the application context as framework. And coming to the class wise organization, and we have application class division and unit work class. What is most appropriate one to choose? That's why we had a question then. But customer details is pretty common for all divisions, all units, anywhere, everywhere in application. So we placed it at organization class. We placed it at organization class. So last class, whatever that we have created, the properties, section, flow action, all these three we have created at top level, class wise, application wise also top level, framework application and organization class, right? Next we have created a flow. We have created what? Flow. But while coming to the flow, we have created flow in the implementation application and implementation work class. So what was the reason for that? What was the reason for creating flow in the implementation work class and implementation? Yes.
To initiate the transactions.
So because we want to initiate a transaction, every transaction gets initiated in the implementation level only. Okay, respective implementation. And also transaction to be a transaction in order to get executed and generate the transaction ID, we must need one concrete class. That is the work class. That is a work class. So we choose an implementation work class for that. We have chosen implementation work class for that. Okay, clear everyone? So that's the reason to choose implementation work class. So let's go to our application and see. This is our application. This is App Studio. So we can do the development from App Studio as well. That we can do later, not now. Okay, we'll be doing in future. We'll be using that App Studio and all. So this is the flow which we have created. So because we are a developer, we are directly going to Dev Studio, opening the flow and executing the flow. But real business people, they won't run like this. I mean, like they won't see all these things. So they will launch their portal, not from the Dev Studio. When they log in, they will get some portal appearance like this. Okay, here is a plus icon, right? Here they will have a facility to execute the flow. But as of now, our flow is not listed here. We can see these things in the future classes. Okay, now? So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, click on run. When you run this, So this is what we have created. This is the runtime environment where you can select, enter some first name, last name, date of birth, age, all these things. So you can go ahead and enter this. Email address, that is okay. Email address is okay. So that's what I have given email address and then submit general. So now what happened after you submit? So when you execute the flow, what has happened? After you enter the data and submit the flow, what has happened? So as of now here, we have only one screen. Suppose if you want one more screen to be displayed after this screen, you can use one assignment shape. I did not tell you about this yesterday. I'll explain you today. So what is that now? Assignment shape. So let's start now. Assignment shape. What is the purpose of assignment shape? You can blindly remember this all the time. It's a thumb rule. Like this flow shape is used to call user interface. User interface means flow action. User interface means what? Flow action. Here, I mean, like flow action means what? Section plus flow action, both together. Because inside flow action you have section, so you'll get section plus buttons also you'll be getting. Okay. So this flow shape is used to call flow action. That means UI in the flow, in the flow. So this can be called at the assignment shapes outward connector. This can be called at the assignment shapes outward connector. So in the outward connector of assignment shape, you would be calling this. Okay, that's what we have done yesterday. Okay, so once you call it at runtime, that flow action gets executed. So that's one point additionally I have to add yesterday, but today I have covered it. Now let's proceed to discuss about what is happening when you run the flow. Exactly what will happen. Okay. See, before we discuss about that, I will take some general concept. Okay, because that we need to discuss going forward. So the concept is general concept. That is project. I mean, like real-time project. I mean, like so real-time project related terminology. Okay, terminology or information. Okay, so that's what I'm going. So that is what the topic is: server environments. What is it? Server environments. After I complete this server environments, I can tell you the subject. See, server environments means what? See, in order for a business application to run, we need to install or deploy. You call it as deploy in technical words. That is generally called as install. We need to install our application on a server. For that, you need hardware, you need software server management products. See, my hardware here is my laptop. On this, I have installed Pega software, right? But Pega has installed this Tomcat application server. What application server is installed? Tomcat application server is also installed. So now our Pega is running, Pega platform, right? That product is running, means that is there on some server management tool that is called Tomcat. So my machine holds Tomcat. Tomcat holds Pega PRPC tool. So in order for your Pega software to run, you need some server. First, let's think about its hardware. Hardware means it's a machine. Server is machine with high configurations. My laptop is just 16 GB or 8 GB, but server's RAM will be too high. Okay, and high configuration systems are servers. Now, generally, what are the different phases that we will be having in our software development life cycle? Okay, SDLC life cycle. What are the different phases of development? Like different phases will be there. First one, development phase. What is that? So requirements will be there. Requirements, comma, analysis, comma, design and okay, analysis, design and development, design and development. Okay, and after this, testing will be there. Design and development, unit testing. I'll write here unit testing and here testing. Okay, and fourth one, deployment. At a high level, I am writing. What is that? At a high level, I am writing deployment. After testing is over, deployment. Now, requirements will be given by business analyst. Who will give us business requirements? So in our application, there will be one person whose role is business analyst. He is the person acts as an intermediate person between developers and actual business people. He will talk to business people and get the requirements, and that requirements he will share with developers and he will explain. He will have functional knowledge about application. Okay. Next, developers once receives requirements, they do design, they do analysis, they do require. Okay, I'll put the point here. So they do analysis, design, and development. Who will do analysis, design, and development? So we are the developers. Okay, developers. There is one more role called developer. Business analyst is one role in project. Developer is another role. And developer, after development is over, he will unit test it. He will unit test whether whatever I have developed is pretty much working fine or not. He will just check it by executing. Everything is fine. Then whatever the development he has done, he will hand over that particular thing to another team. Those are testers. Those are testers are also called as quality analyst people. Quality analyst. Okay. They will do some regression testing. Okay. Means full testing they will be doing. Everything is fine. Then the application is good, ready to be used by business people. Ready to be used by business people. Right? So then business people, they will access the application when we deploy it to another server. Okay, let me tell you now. So server environments wise, you will be having multiple servers in real time. One is sandbox. What is that? Sandbox. I'll tell you the purpose and all. Second one, development server. Third one, QA server. QA server. Fourth one, UAT or staging server. Staging server. Fifth one is production or live server. Production or live server. Optionally, sixth one may be post production. Okay, this is optional. And the first one is also generally optional. Okay, some projects may not have. Okay, so the four important are development, QA, UAT, and live server. These four are important servers. Understand clear, everyone? Now you see here. See why these many servers, see, you wanted to develop a project as a developer. You want to log into Pega PRPC and you want to develop a project, and then you want to unit test it. After that, you need to hand over for testers. Testers will do testing. Testers and you, developer, you both at a time won't log into same server. Okay. So for that reason, we will maintain multiple servers. So now you take, just example, you take 4 servers. 4 servers means 4 machines in front of you. You install Pega on 4 machines. Okay. First one you say developers and create the developer login IDs. Second one you say QA server and create some logins. Those are assigned to testers. Those are assigned to testers. Third one is UAT. Okay, in our 4 main important 4. There you create logins and give it to testers only. Only testers can log in into QA and UAT. Only developers can log into development. Okay, everyone following, right? And next, live server. Live server is not for the business, I mean like developers or QA. Live server is the actual server where the real business transactions will happen and real business people will log in. That means You have Amazon application, you know, right? Amazon.in or Amazon.com. So who will make the transactions, real transaction by logging to Amazon application? We are the people. We are the people. Generally, the citizens of country, they will be using the. So we are called as end users. We are called as end users. So end users log into one application that will be installed in a server called live server or production server. Live server or production server. Understand clear, everyone? So developers will log into development server, do the development. QA people will log into testing server and do the testing. And how this will come to testing? See, development server, you log in as a developer. Whatever you are going to develop there, whatever you are going to, let's yesterday we created properties, section, flow action, flow. This is my task is over. So now I want to hand over this to QA people. I have tested everything is good. Now I will not give my machine to them. I mean, like, I will not allow them to log into same development server. Whatever the rules you have created, you will package the rules. What you will do? Package means you will generate a zip file. You will generate a zip file which contains the rules that we have created. That zip file you will install. That zip file you will install into QA server. So you have another server where Pega is installed. No? So that process will be doing it. Okay. That is at the end. So you deploy that development, whatever you have done, into QA server. Okay. Na? So now QA people will log in, whatever you have developed, they can see. Whatever you have developed, they can see. Okay. Na? Clear? So now they will do testing. After their testing is good, again, you will move the same thing to UAT. There even more testing will be done. So everything is fine in UAT also, you will move it to live. So business people will log in and that functionalities will work. That's how code will be moved from one server to another server. Code means here rules. Code means what? Rules. Make sense clear, every one of you? Are you clear, everyone? Okay. So now, before development, there can be one more server on which Pega is installed. Developers will access that. That can be for just case study development purpose. R&D, research and development. Research and development means what? You can play with the application to learn more and to implement some case studies to present it to the customers. Before you go with project, you can develop case study. That's what called as sandbox. Sandbox means for playing purpose. Okay. Post-production optional server, which will contain the copy of the product which is there in live. Live server, whatever is there working fine, you will take a copy of it and maintain it as a backup in the post-production. Understand clear, everyone? So that's what about multiple servers. So I'll show you the diagram. Just give me 1 minute. Server environments. Where do I have that place? So if you open this and see here, you can see. So here I did not mention about sandbox. Up to post-production I have mentioned. So development server, where development will be done. Whatever you create here will be moved to QA. It will be moved to QA server, right? So whatever you develop in QA, that QA development will be moved to UAT. So development server will be accessed by developers. QA UAT will be accessed by testers. Testers for testing. And then that will be moved to production or live. And from live, it will be copy will be maintained in post-production. Okay, this diagram I will share you. Understand? So we will think about this point while we are discussing our technical aspects in the next few minutes. Okay, everyone clear with this? Everyone, online students, are you clear? Respond on the charting window.
Yes.
Okay, now? Okay, good. So let's proceed now. Okay. So that's just your imagination. Okay, everything, whatever I have explained, you can imagine like 5 machines are there. Pega is installed everywhere. Whatever you develop, generate a zip file. That zip file again you deployed. That's just an imagination at a high level. Enough. Okay. So now we are going to discuss about what is happening after you execute the flow. See, after you execute the flow, what is happening exactly is a transaction is getting initiated. See, if a transaction is initiated, means transaction should be identified by an ID. That's called as transaction ID. That's called as transaction ID. Yes or no? So transaction ID should be generated. Suppose if you are working in a programming language technology, you have tried the logic for generating the IDs. But here Pega has that feature inbuilt. Okay, when you are going to run the flow, transaction has been initiated. Where it is initiated? At the start shape. So after initiation, transaction will proceed further. When the transaction reaches this particular shape, one screen is displayed and it is waiting for the someone to work with this screen. Okay. Now you enter some data and click on submit. Enter some data and click on some submit. Okay. Now you submit. Now what happens? Transaction has been moved from this shape to this end shape. Once it reaches end shape, it's over. Now the transaction, when it is created, initiated, you can see on top level here. Okay, this is called C. This is C dash. You need to read that as dash 10002. This is our transaction ID. You can just imagine when you withdraw some amount of money using ATM, you will get one slip, physical copy. Their ID will be available, transaction ID. So each transaction you do will have a unique transaction ID getting generated. Here in Pega, there is a sequential number getting generated. You see now, actions and then run, the sequential number is getting generated. The sequential number is getting generated. Okay, clear everyone? Okay, C dash 10003. Okay, so now if I run once again the same flow, one more transaction, C dash 10004, like that. Understand clear everyone? So let's proceed now and discuss more. So this is generally transaction ID. Here, what do you call? See, whenever you execute a flow, okay, yesterday you remember we have selected one option. I will explain those options now and then we'll come to the actual point. I'm not able to go to process tab. Why? Oh, okay. So we have selected one option, creates a new work object. This is one option we selected. And the other option is at the work parties drop down, we used to have what we used to have PY default that is been replaced by PY case management default. First, let's complete this part and then we will move to other discussion. PY default. Actually, no one will ask you these things in interview. This one, what is this one and all? I have never seen anyone asking in interviews. But I'm just telling you because you need to learn the subject in depth. Okay. I'm saving this and I'm going to run this now. Work parties, default, actions, and then run this. So once you execute the flow, like my intention is, what if I execute the flow without changing this option? Now I had put it back to original one. PY case management default is not set. What is going to happen? Let's try to experience that. So now you can see some screen has been displayed, which I did not design by myself. This has been displayed as a first screen where it says some information. I am deleting that and I'm clicking on create. Now C dash, you're not seeing some transaction number. Number is not yet generated. Now you click on create. Then the first screen which you have placed in your transaction model is getting displayed. So Pega by default provides one OOTB screen which gets displayed at the very beginning of transaction. At the very beginning of transaction. And it can be used for collecting some data. As a welcome screen, you can use with instructions your way. Your wish, you can customize it, but we are not up to that level to customize as of now. But you can utilize it, customize it the way you want. But using that screen is optional. Using that screen is optional. You want to use that screen, use it. Customize, you can customize and you can display that screen. You want to ignore the displaying a default screen at the beginning of transaction, you can ignore it. You can ignore it by selecting PY case management default at work parties. PY case management default at. So if you select this option, that screen display will be getting ignored. You can experience now, correct? In order to ignore the display of a default initial screen provided by Pega, I have selected PY case management default at work part is dropped out. This point, everyone clear? That is just for your information. Are you clear, every one of you? You need to respond on the charting window. Okay, good. Now let's jump on to the next one. Why did we choose this? Yes, please go.
I have a doubt. Why is it behaving like that?
It's not behaving like that. It's a provision. It's a provision given to us. You want an initial screen which you can use for welcome screen purpose with instructions, or maybe you want to collect the data, something like that. You want to use it, use it. For using, go with option A. For ignoring, go with option B. If you need such a screen in your project, use it. Otherwise, leave it. Understand?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Now creates a new work object checkbox. We selected this option. What are we instructing the process commander by selecting this? We are instructing the process commander, hey, you create a new work object when I execute the flow. I'll explain you this option in two ways. One is functional understanding. Another one is too technical understanding. Let me tell you functional understanding. What if you do not select this checkbox? What I am trying to tell you now is, if you don't select this checkbox, what would exactly happen? I say that flow will not be executable. Flow will not be executable. So in order to make a flow executable, I'm saying you must select this checkbox. That means if you don't select this checkbox, you should not get run option. If you go to actions, you should not see run option if you do not select this. So I did not select this now. I am saving it. Let's verify whether run option is coming or not. It will come. It will come. It is shown there. I'm able to run. You might be now having a doubt. So you said that if you don't select this option, flow will not be executable. But now you have not selected, you saved the flow, but you see still run option. When you have run option, it will be executable, obviously. Then how do you justify if you don't select this, flow will not be executable, run option will be not getting displayed there. So for that, I need to tell you another connected point. You can see, if you go to diagram tab, on the left top, you can see something called as draft on. What is that? Draft on means for every flow that you create, by default, one option is turn on. What option? Draft mode. That is called as draft mode is on. So what is meant by drafting? First of all, suppose if I am going to purchase some property, I'm going to go to some document writer. I will tell him this is the property that we wanted to purchase. Okay, can you please prepare the documentation for this? He will prepare one document and he will hand over to me before the deadline and says that, sir, this is a draft document. Please go through it and then mark out whatever, if you find any discrepancies, and give it back to me. Then I will create a finalized document. Now you tell me, what do you mean by draft document? Drafting. Drafting means something is in draft mode means what?
Working in progress.
Working in progress, which is not yet finalized, which is actually a dummy one. Okay, it's not a original one. So draft flow is a dummy flow just for demonstration purpose. Just for what purpose? Demonstration purpose. Draft flow is a dummy flow just for demonstration purpose. So by default, every flow you create is a draft flow. Now you see, there is a warning message which you can really ignore for your age of Pega learning, but I'm going to explain. If you click on review and edit, it will display what is the warning. What it says, this flow is in draft mode. Draft mode suppresses most of the errors. If you are creating, if you still continue it as draft mode, even though it has to throw error message, it won't throw. Okay. However, this flow will not be executable in production. I will explain you 2 points. This point I'll explain you first. I'll explain you this point next. So it suppresses most of the errors. What does it mean? Look at here now. This is in draft mode, right? I am going to turn off the draft mode. But before that, I double click on connector. Flow action. Calling a flow action here is not mandatory. You do not see any mandatory options. Star mark you don't see. I am removing this flow action. I am not calling any flow action. My flow as of now is in draft mode. I am able to save or not. Yes, you are able to save. But when you execute, you won't see any screen. Okay. Now, if I turn off the draft mode, click on this option to turn off the draft. Immediately, it is throwing one error message. What is that? Flow action value cannot be blank. It says some values should not be blank. For outgoing connector of assignment shape, this is assignment shape outgoing connector. For this, at flow action, the value should not be blank. Now you see star mark. Why your star mark coming now? Because you are creating a real, you made it as a real flow. It's not a draft flow now. You have turned off the draft mode. So now you select the flow action here and then submit and save. It is a finalized flow. Warning also gone. Warning also. So whenever you are going to work with any flows in real time, after you create the flow, your design is entirely completed everything, turn off the draft mode. Why should I turn off? Let me tell you. See, draft mode not only suppresses the errors which actually should come, but also your flow will not execute in production. Same flow, if you move to live server, because it is draft flow, it won't run. That's how Pega is designed. For that, there is another linked topic that we can see later. Okay, but you can understand as of now, draft flows will be non-executable flows. Whatever you do for it, it is non-executable in live server for sure. Are you clear about draft mode? Draft flow is a dummy flow just for demo purpose. After we create the flow, we make sure after everything configurations are done, we make sure to turn off the draft mode. Suppose you forget to turn off and you move the flow to live server, it won't be executable in live. Are you clear with this, every one of you? Everyone. Draft mode, you understand? Okay. Now let's come back to the point. That is, creates a new work object. Draft mode is on now, as of now. So when draft mode, dummy flow, when it is a dummy flow, whether you select the creates a new work object or option or not, it will show the run option. For a dummy flow, it will show, no problem. But you turn off the draft mode and then save it, and you don't select the creates a new work object, flow will not be executable. Run option is not there. So if you do not select creates a new work object, flow will not be executable. That point is with respect to the real flow. For a draft flow, I don't bother about it. With respect to real flow. Makes sense? Clear, everyone? Online students, are you clear? Every one of you clear? Okay. Everyone online, are you clear? So now let's discuss more about that option of creates a new workout. This is an instruction. It's not only going to make the run option available and make the flow executable. It's an instruction given to process commander by the developer by selecting the option. Hey, flow, when I execute you create a new work object. You create a new work object. What is that? I'm going to show you now. I'm going to execute the flow. I'm explaining in detail, in depth about what is happening in the background. So you executed the flow. I'll open one diagram for better understanding purpose. Okay. Work object related diagram I'll open. I'll find one diagram and open it. Okay. This is the diagram I want to open. With the paint. Look at here now. This is a flow. There is a flow with 3 assignments. 3 assignments means how many screens? How many screens? 3 screens. When you execute the flow, screen 1 will be displayed. Submit screen 1, screen 2 will be displayed. Submit screen 2, screen 3 will be displayed. Submit screen 3 or transaction is completed. Transaction is completed. Now, whenever you execute this flow, Pega creates one work object which can be uniquely identified by an ID. that ID format will be by default C dash some sequential numeric number. C dash is fixed. Okay, clear everyone? So what is happening when we execute the flow? Selecting this option, flow is executable. When we run the flow, it creates a work object in the background. Okay. So each work object can be uniquely. Each work object means what? See, you have executed the flow 10 times. How many transactions have been done? 10 transactions. When you go to ATM and try to withdraw money 10 times, all 10 times same flow will run. Yes or no? Same flow, same screens you will get. Okay. So, but 10 different transactions you have done. So 10 times if you execute the flow, 10 work objects will be created. So each work object can be uniquely identified by an ID called as work object ID. So there are different terminologies. Work object can also be called as case. What do you call it? Case. Work object ID is also called as case ID. Case ID. Understand clear everyone? That's for your information. Now let's go back to the diagram. So whenever you execute the flow, work object is created, you are saying. How can I see? Object you cannot see because it is a virtual thing. But ID you can see. ID you can see, its ID is displayed in the UI. So what does this work object do? Work object that is created at start shape, it will roll, it will travel through the flow step by step. It will travel through the flow step by step. Suppose, so you have some number of steps, the steps means staircase. Just imagine that. Okay. So you have n number of steps. Suppose if you're going to release a ball at the top one, what it will do? Step one, step two. Generally, let's think like evenly it is stepping. Step one, step two, step three, like that. Steps here are flow shapes. Between start and how many flow shapes are there? It will go one by one. First start shape, after second shape. It will go there. If it is assignment shape, work object will wait there. Work object will be waiting there. So waiting for what? Displaying a screen. It will wait for user to perform an action on the UI. Once user clicks on submit, work object will move from this assignment to next assignment. So there again, user will take an action of submit. Work object will move from that second assignment to third assignment. So work object when moved to end shape, we call it as resolved completed. It's simply resolved. Simply resolved means it is over. So work object travels through the flow from start shape to till end shape on its way to get resolved. So work object while traveling, it will go step by step in the flow. It will go step by step. Okay. Now, so after the work object is created and you have work object reached to some flow shape, asking the details. Okay. Asking the details here. So here, when it is asking the details, okay, submit this. When it is asking the details, you have entered the details as a user and you are submitting. Now work object will go from this place to next level. So what happened to this information? Who will hold this information? Means work object holds this data. Work object holds this data. The entire data, whatever you have submitted, it has been like a magnet collecting some particles, right? That's how data will go and stick to the work object. Okay, you imagine it's like a virtual entity, ball. Suppose you have a ball. Suppose, let's say for example, you have three square boxes on the floor. Three square boxes on the floor. In each square box, you have some sand particles. Some sand is there. Okay. Now you have one tennis ball, right? It will have some fur and all. Okay. Tennis ball. Okay. The tennis ball, let's make it wet, like you are going to douse it into water. And if you roll the ball, okay, if you roll the ball through that square boxes on the floor, what will happen now? The sand particles will stick to that ball. Same way. Same way now when work object is created, when it is traveling through the flow, whatever the data you enter, entire data, step 1, 2, 3. Step 1, first go and stick to work object. Now when it is going to second square box, additional particles will be collected. Like that, second screen, you enter data, again that will additionally get added. After resolve, entire data will be there with work object only, but its status is completed. Understand that? So work object travels through the flow. The data, transaction data will be available with work object. So while traveling through the flow, whatever the information that you give to in the transaction, you provide in the transaction will be held by work object. Work object holds the entire transaction data. Work object holds what? Entire transaction data. Are you clear with this point? So entire transaction data at a time it will collect, or some data at step 1, some data at step 2, some data at step 3. How it will work? Step by step it will collect the data and keep increasing the data, or at a time at the end it will collect the data? Step by step only. You need to understand that point. Make sense? Clear, everyone? At each step, whatever you add the data, it will be additionally getting added. Okay. So that's what about work object at a high level. So work object ID will have two parts. Work object ID will have two parts. What are the two parts there in work object ID? First one, work object ID prefix. Work object ID is prefix. Here in our case, prefix is C dash. Example ID I will give you. So example, if the ID is C dash 1, for example, C dash is prefix, not only C dash is prefix. And second one is sequential numeric number. That is, what is tell me. In the example, it is number 1. If I execute the flow once again, after C dash 1 is created, one more time, if I run the flow, what is the next number? C dash 2. So work object ID will have a prefix and sequential numeric number based on the prefix. If I modify the prefix from C dash to D dash, with the D dash, again it will start from 1. D dash 1, D dash 2. If I modify to X dash 1, X dash 2, X dash. Like for each prefix, last served ID, Pega will store somewhere. For each prefix, last served ID, Pega will store somewhere. That last served ID, next number will be generated. That's the internal programming of Pega. Okay, clear everyone? Online students, are you clear? I am teaching you in depth what is happening in the background, everything. Make sense? How PC can identify whether it is a production server or not. That's what. That topic I'll tell you maybe after some time. That is some advanced level of topic. So I'll tell you later. That's what I told you. In future, there is a topic connected to that production and all. Okay. Now, see here. Next point, coming to work object thing. So you understand everything, right? Now, where is my data getting stored? I told you it is collected by work object. If this work object gets stored somewhere, my entire data is getting stored, right? The storage will happen step by step only. Every step data will go and store into table. So now in a database table, on a database table, you can perform these two operations. Okay, there are many operations. Insert operation, update operation. In a database table, you can perform insert means one new row will be inserted in database table. Suppose if you take any database table, I'll open meanwhile. Meanwhile, I'll open this. Just give me a minute time. Let this be open. So in a database table, data will be stored into tables. Database table. Okay. So database table, if I go here, you see there is a table called, okay, this table I'll take. Persons. There is a table, persons. Table will have header. Header are attributes. That's what column 1, column 2, column 3. It will have columns. Each column is attribute. Rows will be there. Rows are data. Suppose if 10 customers register on Facebook, So I will show you our table. I'll tell you how to open this database and all. I'll give you later. No worries. I'll give you today or tomorrow. If you follow the document blindly, it will be done. But if possible today, otherwise tomorrow. For now, you can ignore looking into this one in your application. What is our application? HDFC, right? I'll open one table. Don't bother about how I am identifying the respective table, how I open this environment. I'll give you the information about the same. So here you go now. Okay. Now in this table, the work object ID generated would have been stored. So it has so many columns, and multiple rows are there. What are these rows? Each row here is one work object. Each row here is one work object. Suppose in a Facebook application, if users are getting registered, the registered user data it has to store. It has to store the registered user data. It will store into database table. There is a table Facebook underscore users. So 100 people registered means 100 rows will be there. Each row is corresponding to one customer, one user. Understand? Same way, if you make 100 transactions, in the back end, one table stores all these transactions along with data. That is called as work table. Work object data will get stored into backend one table. We generally call it as work table. Okay, coming to backend point of view, work object data gets stored in a table in role base. The table is called as generally what do you call it? Work table. You call it as work table. Work object gets stored into a table in the backend in role base called as work table. We did not create it. Automatically it got created while you create a new application. You remember we have created application by running new application wizard. That time this table got created. Now let's have a look at the table now. So there are so many columns which I cannot understand as of now as a beginner, but there is one column which I can understand. If you just come right side, there is a column here. See, look at this column. This column name is PYID. You need to read this as PYID. And column has some values here. What are these things? You can tell me. Work object IDs. Since yesterday, we created 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 work objects. 9 times I have executed our flow so far. So I'll create one more work object. See here. 1007 is already created. 1008. So I created, but I did not enter any data and I did not submit. Now let's go to database and refresh the database. 1008 is there or not there, we'll see. This column only you have to focus on. Another column also contains similar values, but focus on PYID column. So in work table, what is the 1008? One record is inserted. That means the moment work object is created, record is inserted. As of now, this work object is stored into work table without any data. Only ID is there, but user provided data is not there with it. As of now, it's there. Insert has happened now. Update means what? Insert means adding a new record into table. Insert means adding a new record. When you execute the transaction, immediately in the database, one insert command got executed and it has inserted one new record and one ID has been stored into a column PYID. So in work table, work object ID gets stored into a column. What is that column name? Important. Very, very, whatever that I am going to tell you here, all points are important. PYID column. It stores PYID. Update means what? Update means already one entity, one object is there. You are adding additional information to it. If you keep on update the work object, new rows will not be added. Same row will be added with more information. Understand clear, everyone? Okay. So here you go now. Okay. Now this is work object. Now here you go. I am going to enter the data. Okay. I am going to enter some data. Okay, and then submit. Now this data is collected by work object, and this data would have got updated into this particular row because this is the work object now. This particular row, already row is there. Additionally, information would have been added. Where is this first name, last name, gender, age, date of birth? Are there any such columns available in this table or not? Let me refresh once again. Just check here. There are no columns available with name, first name. In real world, I mean like in other technologies, you'll have these columns, first name, last name, whatever the fields you have, corresponding columns will be there in the backend. But here in the work table, where it is storing the work object data, there are no columns like first name, last name and all. Pega stores the information in a different format. That is, the entire work object data, definitely it will store into one column called as PZPV stream and in a blob format, binary data format. So work table contains work object data. Work table contains user provided work object data. User provided work object data. Instead of contains, we say work table stores user provided work object data into a single column, PZPV stream, PZPV stream. This will be in blob format. What is the format? Blob. So blob stands for binary large objects. Binary large objects. Understand clear everyone? Binary large objects format it will store into table, which we cannot understand, which we cannot see. It's compressed. Format changed plus compressed and getting stored. Okay, like a zip file. Suppose if I have 10 Word documents, I want to send an email, but I want to send it as a single file. I can right click on 10 files and convert into zip file. Now one file contains all other files. Size also will be reduced. I cannot see what is there inside zip file unless I extract it. You can extract this blob column later. That we can see later. Understand clear everyone? Okay, clear everyone? So work object data always, suppose you have 10 screens. Screen 1, when you enter the data and submit, the moment you click on submit button, okay, I'll go to the diagram. The moment you click on submit button here, work object, whatever the data you entered will go and update into existing record. Already the moment when you execute the flow, work object is created. When it is created, the moment it is inserted into table. Here I have written inserted. Next, at the first screen, you enter data and submit, updating. Second screen, you enter data and submit, updating. Third screen, you enter the data and submit, updating the same. Like this, as the work object proceeds step by step, so some data will get additionally added into the work table. Are you clear with this point, every one of you? Everyone?
Yes. I have a doubt. Is
Yes,
Postgres is a default database for the
yes. When you install Pega in the home version, you will get a default database Postgres. In real time, Pega will not give any database. Pega will give the queries about database, what queries to be loaded, executed to create some default tables to load some default data. Database is choice of client. Client can use SQL Server, DB2, PostgreSQL, any other MySQL, clients wish, but mostly 95% in real world, you'll see DB2 server is being used. Which server? DB2 server. Understand clear, everyone?
yes.
So two columns we have discussed about in the work table. What are the two main columns as of now we discussed? PYID and PZPV stream. I will tell you more details. Okay. Now, there are four more columns, four important OOTB columns of work table. As of now, we are discussing with work table. These columns will be there in every table actually. What are those? So first one, PX create date time, PX update date time, PX create operator, PX update operator. Understand? See, suppose you might have experienced this. Sometimes you log into your net banking account where you download the last 1 month transaction history. Yes or no? Last 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, like that. What is the input parameter you give here? Mainly is date. The transaction is being made so and so date. I want the data. What are all the transactions that I have done on so and so date? I need the data. That means in the backend database table is also holding not only ID and data, but also the transaction created date and time. It is holding. In Pega, it is by default, Pega tool will take care of all these things. Okay. So Pega will, whenever you make a transaction, the moment you make a transaction, the creation date and time at that moment in server, the time will be taken and stored into a column called px create date time. So px create date time is work object creation date and time. Then what is the second one, you tell me? Second one is last update date time of work object. So last time when it was updated. So px create operator, you can guess and tell me who created. Who? The operator ID of the person who created the work object, means who initiated the transaction. So what is the next one? Tell me. Yeah, that's what. The operator ID of the person who modified the work object latest. Okay. See, a transaction will not be handled by a single person all the time. It will go from one team to another team like that. So last updated person details also. Pega will store all these by default only. Here you go to the beginning of transaction. Here you can see px create date time one column you'll see. Just give me 1 minute. Somewhere it should be available. Px create date time. After that, px create operator. Similarly, you'll have px update date time, px update operator, px update date time, px update operator. These are 4. Px create date time, px create operator, px update date time, px update operator. These are important. Okay. Create date time, update date time, create operator, update operator. PYID, period, PV stream. You should know as a developer these things. So do you have any questions or doubts about the same what we have discussed for today? And it's not yet completed. Tomorrow I'll cover. What I'm going to cover tomorrow is March 19, 2025. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about debugging tool. What is that? Debugging tool. That is also with respect to work object. Debugging tool. So I will tell you about clipboard. What is that? Clipboard. This one I'll explain. So this contains the data of the work object. This holds the data of the work object temporarily. Tomorrow I'll give you idea and information about this. After this topic, this will take 15 minutes time max. I'll tell you about page, just an introduction about page. Then more details about the page also I'll tell you. And I'm going to tell you about data layer classes. Data layer classes, which we call as data type. And before this, it's good I'm going to tell you about data modeling. What is that? Data modeling. Okay, so step by step we'll be learning. Okay, so everyone clear so far?
Also, I have one doubt.
Yes, please.
As of now, what you said is the work table is stores of 4 data plus that PUID and PZ string, right? But
Correct.
apart from that, other data is held in the PXPV string, which is in the format of blob, right?
Mm.
So other than data, we can't able to see in a work table.
You can see px create date time, update date time, PYID, all that you can see, normal columns. Inside blob, what is there you cannot see. If you want to see, definitely you need Pega tool.
Okay.
Okay, so that we will see later. And here we are going to continue tomorrow. Let me attach the document. 625, right?
Will you explain more about like how this Postgres database is connected with Pega?
That will be covered going forward. That is not now. That is advanced topic. We work on external database integration. That time we'll come to know how it is connected and all. Okay, we'll practically do it.
Okay.
So all the things cannot be taught in the same day. So basic level, advanced level, even more advanced level. I'm sorry, like that we'll be looking at. So 625, right? Class running notes only. So I'll start giving you interview questions. Did I already gave you some questions? I'll start adding from today. I'll add it after some time and I'll share the document. Okay. And here you go now. Theory documents and understanding work object. Okay. Even bit more to be covered that I will cover tomorrow. Okay. Diagrams I'll attach. Correct. Work object diagram. What is the other one?
No.
Server environments, right? Flow diagram. Work object diagram is flow diagram. Server environments. These two diagrams only, right? Okay. Okay. So you can wind up for today. Continue tomorrow. Thank you for joining.